Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. After the successful closure of our past few opportunities, we are excited to launch our next Times Square opportunity in Mumbai. So, through the presentation, I'm going to discuss a little bit about, how we are looking at this opportunity in a post-pandemic world and what sort of appreciation, we can expect to realize. So again, before I start off the presentation, I do want to state that, we invest in all our opportunities. We'll be investing alongside all Fraxel investors. So I'm going to outline a few of the reasons, that this opportunity was appealing to us and why we chose to go ahead with it. So starting off with the Times Square overview. So the subject premises, the one we are going to be discussing, the one we are looking to acquire is the 10th floor in newly constructed Tower C, situated in the Times Square development. Now this entire floor plate has an area of 17,816 square feet. And what is very interesting to note is that the premises is already occupied for an extended lease tenure by the leading managed leasing player, SmartWorks. So, through the presentation, I'll discuss SmartWorks and managed leasing in more detail. This is something which is very pertinent for this opportunity, and in fact, something we are very bullish about in a post-pandemic era. The subtenant for our opportunity, or the subtenant of SmartWorks, in fact, is Iftaz. Iftaz is an RBI subsidiary. The RBI's Iftaz's business model is something which is very unique. It's sort of COVID insulated, and we'll get into that in more detail as well. Now, a very interesting trend that we actually came about that has that has garnered popularity or has gained traction in a post-pandemic era is the hub and spoke model. So what the hub and spoke model primarily entails of is that enterprise tenants or MNC and large corporates, what they're doing is they're trying to bifurcate very large floor plates into a more distributed office system. So, in this new trend, SmartWorks is actually, they've seen a lot of the traction due to this trend. A lot of the SmartWorks facilities have been used by enterprise clients, primarily the ones who are looking at this new hub and spoke model as the strategy going forward for their own corporations. Now, coming to the highlights, the average yield across the tenure is 10.5%. Again, something we are very excited about. This is highly competitive, not only with commercial real estate, but also with other wealth and investment avenues. So if you see your FD rates today, they're about 5.5%, 6%. If you see corporate A plus grade, AAA rated bonds, they are about 7%. So, to that end, 10.5% is something we think is a very sort of positive aspect of this entire opportunity, and something which is also contractually secured with a registered leave-in license agreement with the tenant. We'll get into that in more detail when we look over the lease highlights. Now, what we are targeting for this opportunity is an IRR of 13.6%. Again, this is, this has been evaluated basis very conservative assumptions. We'll go through the assumptions in more detail subsequently. The lease tenure provided to us by the tenant is a 5 + 5 + 5, totaling to a 15 years, which is something we are very excited about in a sort of time like today, where most leases are not happening for a longer duration than 3 to 4 years. So, in a time like today, we were able to secure 15 years in a city like Mumbai. It's highly unprecedented and something which we think is a strong value proposition for our investor base. Now, the minimum investment size for this opportunity remains at 25 lakhs per person. Moving forward, we'll talk a little bit about the location. We always stress on the importance of location. So, just to take a step back, the way we evaluate properties can be bifurcated into two parts. One is the parameters that are more permanent in nature and more permanently associated with the underlying asset. The other is parameters that are more situational or subjective in nature. So when I talk about permanent parameters, things like location, micro market, capital value, asset quality, these are things which we allocate more importance to. We also look at situational characteristics of the opportunity itself, such as the lease agreement, the tenant terms and things like that. So starting off, let's discuss Mumbai in itself. Mumbai doesn't need an introduction. However, we'll cover some interesting statistics that we found during our research, which we think, will add valuable insight to this entire opportunity. So Mumbai as a city is is one of the preferred locations for headquarters of MNC firms, Indian banks, financial institutions, and life sciences firms. The sort of traction in office area, the growth of the office market has been phenomenal in the past few years. In fact, Mumbai as a city performed relatively better to most other Indian cities when it also came to the COVID related lockdowns and the sort of COVID related vacancies. So Mumbai was far more resilient, and we'll get into the statistics regarding that. One of the driving factors for Mumbai is that it truly contributes 7% of India's total GDP. Now that's a phenomenal achievement. I don't think there are very many cities that have such a that have such an achievement under their belt. One of the interesting statistics that I would like to highlight is the literacy rate of 90%. Now, usually when you think of a 90% plus literacy rate, you think of cities that are more in the southern parts of India, for example, Kerala, Tamil Nadu. However, in Mumbai, this literacy rate has increased drastically with time. Now, this is also very relevant for the overall purview of Mumbai in itself. Now, the reason for that is that essentially India has a very young population. So majority or the median age of the population of India is, below 25, 27 years old. Now, when we say that 90% of the population, comes under the literacy bracket, what that implies is that tomorrow, when a lot of this young workforce comes into, or when a lot of this young population comes into the workforce as skilled labor, what will happen is that will significantly drive the demand, the usage, the consumption and absorption of office space. So it's a very positive outlook. I mean, the focus on ensuring a high literacy rate, the strong catchment areas and the sort of net absorption growth. So now when we look at the net absorption, what you can see is that Mumbai as a city has recovered phenomenally well from a COVID related distress period. From Q3 2020 to Q4 2020, you can see a 241% net absorption growth. That's something which is a phenomenal recovery. It's something which other cities have seen in terms of recovery, but not to this extent. Another aspect of Mumbai, which I do want to cover before I move ahead, is the population density. Now, unlike other cities in India where in which land is available, in which alternative locations are available, Mumbai is extremely densely populated. Even the sort of apartment sizes are significantly smaller than apartment sizes in other cities. Therefore, this entire work from home concept did not work very well in Mumbai. People felt that, they weren't able to get the privacy at home. They weren't able to get the efficiency at home. And so, the entire office sector has been far more resilient in a city like Mumbai. Now, coming to the micro market overview, this again is very important to understand the dynamics of Mumbai as a city relative to the commercial hubs and micro markets. So our property, or Times Square, in fact, is situated in micro market number 5, which is Western Suburb 1. So Western Suburb 1 is one of Mumbai's largest micro markets with a total stock of 24 million square feet. Now, this again is a very impressive number. It shows the kind of demand, it shows the kind of absorption this entire micro market has from MNC tenants. The next important statistic, especially in a post-COVID era, is to evaluate, the absorption. So absorption primarily signifies the kind of demand from MNC tenants and large corporations that has occurred YTD, primarily driving the entire office sector. So as can be seen from the table presented on the left, the absorption in Western Suburb 1 was relatively the highest as compared to the other micro markets. So this is a very positive sign. It shows the stability of the micro market and the sort of preference from tenants. Now coming to the fact as to why the absorption is so high. So, if you look at some of the more established, or you can say mature micro markets such as South Mumbai, Central Mumbai, BKC, the rentals in these micro markets is upwards of 200-250 rupees per square foot. Our micro market has our micro market is a very cost efficient alternative where rentals are, between 100 and 125 rupees. Our rental is about 106. So, even though the distance between, you can say micro market 2, 3 and 4 from micro market 5 is not very significant, the rental spread is quite significant. Now, the reason for that is that, 4 or 5 years ago, our micro market or micro market 5 was not very well connected with the city. But due to the rapid infrastructure development, the proximity to the airport and the upcoming infra, what we've observed is that the congestion has drastically reduced. The connectivity has become far better. In fact, micro market 5 is considered one of the best connected micro markets in Mumbai, and due to which now the access not only from the northern parts of the city, but even the southern parts of the city have become very easy and accessible. So to that end, we do believe, in the let's say next 5 years, this entire micro market is going to see an uptick in rentals, and in fact, we'll see a lot of development and urbanization of this area from what it already has become. So we're going to discuss the infrastructure and the important upcoming projects with regards to our micro market. So as can be seen, our micro market is actually very strategically located 1.5 kilometers from the airport. If you sort of map this to other urban cities or other tier 1 cities, usually what you'll see is that the catchment area around the airport tends to become, you can say, a commercial hub for the entire city, and the sort of pertinence or the locational importance over the longer term tends to be very stable and tends to be very permanent in nature. So, to that end, we think Times Square is a phenomenal development, very well located next to the airport, that will continue to have strong demand from tenants who require such proximity. Of course, our micro market also has very easy access to the Western Express Highway, which connects, a large part of Mumbai, and in fact, even connects up with the Coastal Road. Now, the Coastal Road is something which we've all seen a small fraction of, right? We've all seen the Coastal Road that runs for a very small stretch currently. However, the Coastal Road is intended to be completed by 2023, and it's intended to be significantly longer, connecting South Mumbai to the northern suburbs of Mumbai also. What's interesting to note about this upcoming Coastal Road is that the 2 entry points, in fact, are very close to our micro market. Again, this will significantly reduce, even the existing congestion in this area. It will enable people to commute from long distances to our micro market, and thereby the entire accessibility of our micro market will significantly improve. This is also a very interesting part of the entire location, proposition from this micro market. So Mumbai in total has 8 upcoming or completed metro lines. Our micro market, in fact, is very closely connected to 5 metro lines, almost in walking distance. Now, as you can see, no other metro line or no other micro market has access to these number of metro lines. Most micro markets have access to 1 or 2 metro lines. Our micro market, once all these metro lines are connected, will be connected to almost every part of the city via one or the other line. So all these metro lines that are to be constructed will aggregate to a length of 265 kilometers. This is something which is a phenomenal achievement for a city like Mumbai. It's going to set a benchmark and, in fact, to some extent, a global standard. 265 kilometers is something truly very impressive. The intention of this entire metro project was to reduce travel time by 50 to 75% for all commuters and all sort of citizens of Mumbai. We think that this is something which will not only benefit our micro market, but even Mumbai as a city as a whole. People who visited or lived in Mumbai, they would appreciate the sort of traffic problems in the city. And when the proposition of this entire project is to reduce that traffic congestion by 50 to 75%, it truly shows what could become of already exist in Mumbai. Now, in terms of the metro lines, as you can see, a lot of the completion dates are within the tenure of our investment period. So we'll see a lot of this infrastructure actually implemented during our investment tenure. So a lot of the appreciation that in turn is driven by this infrastructure and this metro connectivity can be realized during our holding period, which is something we're actually looking forward to and has been one of the driving factors that led to the selection of this asset. This is a slightly more zoomed in map of the vicinity. This is just to give you an understanding of the sort of connectivity, the locality in itself, and the sort of established commercial, hospitality and residential hub that it is. As you can see, our premises, Times Square, is very strategically located between 2 different metro stations. Furthermore, as you can see, Times Square is also situated exactly on the main road. So via this main road, both metro stations are within walking distance. In fact, the closest metro station is within 300 meters of walking distance. In Mumbai, this is something which is, truly valuable. It's something which, tenants and MNC corporations make tenancy preference decisions over. So having access to these metro stations truly enables people to, commute from long distances and very easily reach their place of work. As can be seen, even the international terminal, Mumbai airport, as well as the domestic airport, are within 1.5 kilometers. This is something which is very exciting when it comes to this opportunity. Usually what happens is the catchment area around airports tends to develop and tends to be of a very high quality. Times Square, having such close proximity to it, benefits from all your A+ grade hotel chains that have opened up, from your retail facilities, malls like retail facilities like the Phoenix Market City, established and renowned hospitality chains such as JW Marriott, the Lalit, the Leela. All these sort of establishments, as you can see, are within walking distance of our premises, which is a very strong proposition and a long-term outlook. Now, in this next section, I'll discuss a little bit about the opportunity. We'll start with Times Square. We'll go to Tower C, which is our building. We'll further sort of narrow down from there, go into our floor plate, and subsequently discuss managed leasing terms with our tenants and the lease overview. So starting off with Times Square, as you can see, it's a very well-designed building. It's spread across 6.5 acres of land. This again is something very unique because such land parcels are very rarely available in Mumbai now, given the population density and the extent of urbanization. So within the 6.5 acres, of course, Times Square is very famous for its office buildings and office space. But something which we found equally exciting was the thriving F&B sort of aspect of Times Square. As you can see, a lot of famous brands, a lot of famous establishments such as Roots of India, Global Fusion, Tap Resto Bar, Barbecue Nation. Such brands are operating their facilities within Times Square. This is not only a very strong proposition for people who work in Times Square, but even for these F&B outlets, this is a very exciting location, primarily because they have a very strong captive audience. So essentially, a lot of people from these office buildings tend to be customers of such F&B outlets. Now coming to the office space, the office space is distributed across 4 completed towers. The aggregate leasable area across these towers is about 890,000 square feet. The vacancy also is only 8%, which is very impressive for Mumbai. 8% vacancy, especially after 2 lockdowns, is something very, very few developments have seen. The reason for this, low vacancy is the sort of low rentals, the strategic location, and all the other points we've discussed so far. So during our research, we came across a very interesting data point. So in terms of the renewals and new leases in Times Square, in aggregate, they've crossed 100,000 square feet year to date. The current vacancy is only 70,000 square foot, at present. So we do anticipate, if the leasing and renewals continue as is, prior the end of year, the vacancy will be below 3%. And that is something which would be, to some extent, a landmark achievement for an IT/ITES park, especially in a city like Mumbai. Now coming to our tower, Tower C. So this building was actually completed or received complete OC in as recent as November 2020. So it's a brand new building, fresh asset, and in fact, A+ grade when it comes to quality. So the building, as a testament of its quality, has been certified and awarded a LEED Gold standard, which is a phenomenal achievement, especially when it comes to large premises and large developments such as Times Square. What's exciting for us in this case, and in fact, what will be a focus of this webinar going forward, is actually the managed leasing aspect and the tenant SmartWorks. So SmartWorks essentially has taken the entire building on lease, all 12 floors, in the midst of COVID. So the building only completed in November 2020 in terms of the final occupation certificate. Since then to now, SmartWorks has leased out almost the entire building, and as you can see, only to enterprise clients. So, in a post-pandemic world where leasing has actually been difficult for a lot of the IPCs and consultants in place, one of the players and one of the models that has, performed significantly better is SmartWorks and managed leasing. The reason to that is they have a very strong post-pandemic proposition for the enterprise clientele. So, SmartWorks essentially goes out and does the fit outs and furnishing for all the enterprise clientele. They provide significant number of value-add services to all their tenants. For instance, on floor 6, you have a cafeteria. On floor 1, you have a gym. Such common amenities and facilities are seldom available usually in large developments such as this, in large office developments for that matter. Furthermore, of course, SmartWorks has taken the building within the last 12 years. But what is even exciting is that this entire building has been leased out within COVID to subtenants. So, all these floors, in fact, during 2 lockdowns, in the midst of 2 lockdowns, have seen very strong demand from enterprise clientele to the tune of Royal Bank of Scotland, Iftars, Teva Pharma. All of these are MNCs and large corporates. So all of these are preferring and in fact, sort of transitioning to more of a asset light and flexible model, which SmartWorks is positioned to provide them with. So these are just some, photographs and renders of the Times Square development and the facility itself. As you can see, state-of-the-art, A-grade development, and in fact, our tower is brand new. Again, something I would like to highlight on this slide is the access on road to, on all sides. This is something which is highly valued in Mumbai, especially where congestion is one of the main constraints. Furthermore, this significantly improves the connectivity and gives direct access to the 2 metro stations that we discussed previously. So these are some photographs of the Iftar's office. Of course, these photographs were taken prior to them moving in, prior to them commencing operations. Unfortunately, we were unable to get photographs of the operational office due to Iftar's being RBI subsidiary and their work being highly confidential in nature. However, as you can see, all the furnishing and fit outs that have been done to a A+ Grace standard. In fact, they were done as recently as 2 to 3 months ago. Iftar's, only moved in 2 to 3 months ago. As always, the fit outs have been entirely done by SmartWorks, increasing the stickiness of SmartWorks, all the more. Now let's talk about our floor plate. So this is our floor plate in Tower C. So this is the 10th floor, which is of course tenanted by SmartWorks, subtenanted by Iftar's. Now, something which is very unique about this floor plate, and in fact something which is great design, is the subdivisibility of the floor plate into 4 independent units. Now, this actually enhances liquidity options when we consider an exit for the entire asset 5 or 6 years down the line. Furthermore, it increases releasing prospects if such a case may arise. Now, I'll address the liquidity part in more detail. So, usually what happens is when you're going out and trying to exit an asset of this size of 30 crores plus, 40 crores plus, the number of people who can buy such an asset is, relatively lesser than the number of people who could buy, let's say, a 7 to 10 crore asset. So, assets in the 7 to 15 crore range tend to transact a lot quicker by being able to bifurcate the floor plate into 4 independent units. At the time of exit, we could potentially look at, multiple buyers coming together and sort of buying the entire floor plate, from us. This would also give us an opportunity to realize the optimal exit value and give all our investors an optimal, hopefully high double-digit IRR return. Now, when it comes to the releasing aspect, having subdivisibility of the floor plate, in fact, a modular floor plate is something which has the flexibility to either give the entire floor plate to one tomorrow if we get these subdivisions are approved on sanction, like Mumbai, whereby modularity and flexibility are highly valued by landlords. Another thing which is a great feature of this floor plate is the efficient column distribution. So as can be seen, the columns in the floor plate are situated on the intersection area to the tenant. So again, just adds to the overall tenant proposition. And now in the entire development, and for that matter in Mumbai, with dedicated balconies such as ours, is very few and limited. In Mumbai and in importance, a little bit of dedicated space. is such a highly dense benefits. So actually, I'll take a step back. Let's cover what managed leasing is first. So what managed leasing is, it's a solution provided by an operator, not only to landlords, but also to tenants, whereby this managed leasing operator takes the onus and responsibility of everything to do with leasing from the landlord, and he provides a tenant a very, you can say, modern and customized solution whereby the tenant has limited capex investment, flexible terms, ease of operation, and all the overheads are managed by the managed leasing operator. For a landlord, the benefits, are very important, especially in a post-COVID era and when you look at vacancy risk mitigation. So the primary characteristic of a managed leasing operator that distinguishes or differentiates it from a co-working operator is that in managed leasing, the operator gives you a rental assurance. So irrespective if that managed leasing operator has a subtenant or not, the managed leasing operator is going to continue to pay you rental as per the agreed upon contractual document. However, on the contrary, in co-working, what happens is you have a revenue share model. So, if the co-working operator does not have a subtenant, quite often the landlord has to also bear the brunt of it, or at least partially bear the brunt of it. So managed leasing is something which actually, removes that revenue share risk from the operator to themselves. Now, since we have a rental assurance from the managed leasing operator, plus additional security from a subtenant. So, we have two tenants. So Iftaz is our subtenant in this case. They are paying rent to SmartWorks, and they've actually moved in only 2 months ago. SmartWorks is our managed leasing operator. So, having these two different layers provides us dual layer of security. So let's assume that, even if Iftaz leaves, we have SmartWorks there who will continue to pay us rental. If SmartWorks, tends to leave or decides to change their strategy going forward, then Iftaz is already there. And it's very rare for such establishments to just move locations, and especially since they just recently moved into the premises. So, this dual layer of security is something we found very attractive in a post-COVID era, whereby risk, or you can say vacancy risk mitigation, is of absolute importance. So having this dual layer of security, we anticipate that even in the long term, 5 years, 10 years down the line, we will have a very stable tenant and rental profile. Now, the next part of this is, of course, the stickiness of the managed leasing operator. So when we discuss stickiness, these are essentially the reasons as to which why we think a managed leasing operator cannot very easily leave the premises that they've occupied. In this case, why SmartWorks cannot leave all of Tower C, 210,000 square feet in Times Square. So a lot of these managed leasing operators, unlike co-working operators, what they do is they take entire buildings, under their lease management. So even in this case, they've taken all 12 floors. What that primarily does is, they invest capital, not only to the building upgradation, not only into the furnishing capex, but also into the entire asset quality upkeep. Now, all the tenants that come into a SmartWorks facility are, they're given a fitted out premises, and SmartWorks fits out the premises within 30 days of essentially the interaction between the tenant and SmartWorks beginning. So for a tenant, they're getting a fitted out premises, they're getting a very fast turnaround and a managed leasing operator, a professional managed leasing operator in place, whereas the managed leasing operator, puts in all these costs, becomes highly sticky to the premises, and exchange gets very sticky terms even from their subtenants. So a lot of these enterprise clientele that come in, they give SmartWorks, 3-year lock-ins, 5-year leases, security deposits. So to that end, even the sort of clientele of SmartWorks is highly stable and sticky to their premises. Now, this is very attractive for us because, in a post-COVID era where vacancies, where people are worried about vacancies, not only do we have dual layer of security, but the tenant himself has invested a considerable amount of money into this asset. And lastly, of course, the superior asset upkeep. So if any of you have actually been to a SmartWorks facility, they manage the facility to a A+ grade standard. In fact, they also do a lot of value add propositions for the tenant, including, common facilities, as we saw, a cafeteria and gym. They integrate workplace digitization strategies, digitization, apps, processes, and technology. And furthermore, they have a dedicated team for building management, and they're able to take advantage of economies of scale to further maintain the facility to a very, very high, standard at a relatively cost-efficient solution. Now, Going over SmartWorks in a little bit more detail. So SmartWorks is India's largest and only profitable or cash positive provider of agile workspaces. In fact, they currently are serving 500 plus enterprise customers. Now that's a fantastic achievement. Causing an industry or paradigm shift from traditional workspace to a managed leasing model is something which SmartWorks has pioneered in India, and a testament of their success, in this category is the sort of enterprise clientele they have and the quantity of enterprise clientele they have. So, we'll go into that in more detail in the next slide. SmartWorks has also become India's first flex space provider to have pan-India presence. Now, what this means is that SmartWorks is present in all T1, or in fact, the 9 T1 cities in India. A lot of this growth has taken place in COVID. In fact, apart from our own tower, which was restarted by SmartWorks in the COVID period, they've further expanded to numerous facilities in Hyderabad, Mumbai, Pune, and as you can see, the total area under their management currently is 4+ million square feet. A lot of this area is already further subleased to enterprise clientele, making SmartWorks, as mentioned before, profitable in nature. So, SmartWorks actually has no requirement to vacate any of the facilities. All the facilities have been tenanted by enterprise clientele. The terms they have with the enterprise clientele are long-term, and they're already making a profit on it. So, even SmartWorks having a very successful business model gives us that additional confidence in this whole managed leasing solution when it comes to the landlord's perspective or us as an owner. Now, as can be seen, SmartWorks revenue grew in 2020, 2021. Well, during COVID by 3x. So, as we previously discussed, a lot of tenants are sort of transitioning from, the traditional office space to more of a hub and spoke model via the managed leasing model. SmartWorks has actually, developed a niche and a preference from tenants in this category, from enterprise tenants in this category. And actually, they're one of the only players operating in this space. So they've sort of, established a very high market share in this category, and their growth, in fact, in COVID, is testament of that. So, SmartWorks having grown in COVID with their business primarily being, very strong leasing capability gives us additional confidence, in their performance going forward, as we've already crossed, the toughest of times when it comes to this sort of business model. Now, the kind of clientele SmartWorks has, which also distinguishes it from the traditional co-working, is the enterprise clientele. So SmartWorks has 90% plus of its clientele as enterprise. In fact, all of Tower C and Times Square is fully tenanted by enterprise clientele. Co-working, on the other hand, primarily caters to small startups, to individuals, and those terms with those kind of B2C clientele are not as sticky and long-term as enterprise clientele. So, if you take a look at the graph on the bottom left, what you can note is that SmartWorks is one of the only and in fact largest operators in the enterprise large area space. Why large area is important is because SmartWorks and in fact, any other operator with such economies of scale can benefit from lower cost implications, which in turn are translated, to value add services or lower costs for their subtenants. So to that end, SmartWorks has a very strong tenant proposition and in fact, landlord proposition as well. Now, when we sort of compare this or benchmark this from the co-working space, which I'm going to emphasize through this webinar because it's a very important distinction to understand, a lot of the sort of co-working players are operating in the smaller area space. So, they are not taking up large buildings like what SmartWorks is doing. They're taking up single offices, single floor plates, and they're primarily catering to B2C clientele. So, this co-working segment has, faced the brunt of vacancy due to COVID. However, the managed leasing segment, which is catering to enterprise, dominated by SmartWorks, has seen tremendous growth, strong leasing, and in fact, record time turnaround, which is in fact a very positive outlook. SmartWorks also has, established a valuation of 3,000 plus crore. They have institutional backing by one of the most prominent global VCs, Keppel Land, which is based out of Singapore. They raised funds to the tune of $25 million, making them a highly stable company, already being cash positive. So as discussed before, some of the clientele or enterprise clientele of SmartWorks includes Microsoft, Amazon, Jaguar, Tata, EY. So, as you can see, the clientele of SmartWorks is A+ grade tenants, large enterprises. So a lot of these enterprises are actually preferring the new modern asset-light managed leasing SmartWorks solution. And to that end, SmartWorks in itself has a very, very stable subtenant profile. Now talking about subtenants, let's discuss ours. So we have Iftaz, as previously mentioned, they are an RBI subsidiary. What's most interesting about Iftaz is actually the sort of business that they operate. So what Iftaz essentially is, it's the technology arm of RBI. So Iftaz is responsible for running this network called the critical infrastructure. What this network primarily is, it's the means on which all RTGS and NEFT transactions take place. So, when a bank wants to essentially send out an RTGS, for that matter, insurance fund or a NBFC, they use the critical infrastructure network to basically propagate their transaction. What's interesting about this business model is that number one, it's a monopoly business because only RBI subsidiary can run it. Number two, that all these different financial institutions from traditional banks, NBFCs, LIC, insurance firms, all these different members are subscribers to Iftaz. So Iftaz to that end has a COVID insulated business whereby irrespective of COVID or not, their business continues to have very strong demand for it, as it forms the base of economic transactions in the economy in itself. So a little bit about the tenants. So these are some of the highlights that we found very interesting during our research. So as previously discussed, SmartWorks essentially has expanded tremendously during COVID. In fact, their operations have seen very strong demand from enterprise clientele during COVID. For instance, SmartWorks leased out 600 seats to Ocwen Financial Services, which was in fact a landmark achievement. One of the largest managed leasing, subleases that took place. In fact, it took place only a few months ago in lockdown 2. SmartWorks also leased 4.5 lakh square feet of office space, again in the midst of COVID in Mumbai and Hyderabad. So all this office space is already majorly subleased to further subtenants, again A+ grade subtenants. Iftaz, on the other hand, has also made some phenomenal strides in the past few years. So, if you've tried using the RTGS facility maybe 3 or 4 years ago, you would have realized that RTGS was not 24/7. In fact, it was quite a cumbersome and tedious process. We can thank Iftaz for the fact that via their critical infrastructure network, as well as the GIFT platform, today RTGS transactions can occur 24/7. So a lot of this technological innovation, Iftaz is responsible for, and we are very excited, in fact, to have such a tenant in our portfolio. So even the lease that SmartWorks took in Times Square in the midst of COVID was a landmark, agreement. In fact, this was one of the largest leases that took place this year. Subsequent to this, SmartWorks has also expanded to other locations in Mumbai. One of the points that I did forget to mention, earlier in the presentation was that the reason why SmartWorks took such a big lease, in Times Square Tower C, is that this micro market as a whole has done phenomenally well for SmartWorks. In fact, they have a building or a managed facility which is walking distance from our Tower C. That facility is called Fleet House. Now, Fleet House SmartWorks took about 3 to 4 years ago. That facility has been 100% occupied by subtenants so far and has been one of the most successful buildings of SmartWorks. The same has translated into a very high occupancy rate in a very short duration, for Tower C and Times Square. The same sort of demand SmartWorks has witnessed, and in fact, this will become one of the most profitable projects for SmartWorks. Now coming to the lease terms, this is a very important slide, so I am going to spend a little bit more time on it. So SmartWorks actually signed the lease for the entire building as discussed, Tower C, 210,000 square feet. They signed this in the midst of COVID. So, when a tenant signs something in the midst of COVID, number one, it shows their confidence in the performance of the asset. It also shows their, confidence in their own leasing capabilities. Now, in addition to that confidence, SmartWorks has been able to achieve, almost 100% subtenant occupancy in the building through two lockdowns. So, that is a strong testament of the fact and of leasing capability of SmartWorks. Now, a very sticky aspect for SmartWorks is the interior fit out and furnishing expenses that have been invested into the premises. So, as previously discussed, what SmartWorks does is it provides various value-add services to its tenants. One of them includes, essentially taking on the entire fit out and furnishing expenses. So, SmartWorks has primarily furnished the entire building for all tenants, having a very, very high CapEx investment in this asset. Furthermore, SmartWorks, essentially signed this agreement prior the occupation certificate coming into play. What the developer did also is modify the building as per the requirements and specifications of SmartWorks, making it a custom building for them. So, all these things essentially show the long-term perspective and vision SmartWorks has for this asset. SmartWorks has also invested significant amount of capital into the marketing, into the tenancy of the asset. Now, when it comes to the rental escalation, we have a 15% escalation clause, which is contractual. The 15% is applicable every 3 years. One of the benefits to us is that the next escalation is actually in 2 years from now, so in November 2023. So we are able to realize the benefit of that due to entering the asset at a strategic time. Now, to secure this entire agreement with SmartWorks, we've been, given some fantastic, you can say, terms when it comes to the security of the lease. A notice period of 9 months and a security deposit of 6 months. Both of these are above market standard. This not only shows the stickiness of the tenant, but also gives us a lot of downside protection when it comes to vacancy risk. The entire term or the entire lease of SmartWorks has been segregated into 3 different terms. So term 1, term 2, term 3. So all 3 terms combined aggregate to 15 years. The reason why the 15 years is bifurcated into 3 different terms of 5 years each. And in fact, this is a market practice in Maharashtra is due to stamp duty implication. So, a single term which exceeds 5 years normally attracts a stamp duty implication of more than 35 to 40x of what a term of less than 5 years attracts. So, to that end, bifurcating it into 3 separate terms is a cost efficient and stamp duty efficient solution when it comes to, the outflow of expenses while registering these leases. Now, our first term began on December 2019 and ends on December 2024. The entire term has a 5-year tenure and 5-year lock-in. The second term again has a 5-year tenure and 5-year lock-in. The third term does not have a lock-in but has a full 5-year tenure. In the next section, we are going to benchmark our capital value as well as our rental with the market as well as the recent transactions that have taken place in the building. So a lot of these transactions, in fact, all these transactions we ensured were done in COVID. We thought a fair comparison would only arise if we took transactions that occur in this duration. So as can be seen from these comparables, our transaction price is about 15,617 rupees. When you benchmark that against the market, you can see that a lot of institutional players have bought significant space in this micro market, which is also a testament to the confidence in the micro market. We benchmark significantly lower than the transacted prices. For instance, PNB MetLife, acquired 46,000 square foot in Silver Utopia, which is walking distance from Times Square, at a price per square foot of 18,000 rupees. Similarly, SBI General in Fulcrum at 21,000 rupees. So, to that end, even if you consider the micro market weighted average price, we are at 25% discount. When you benchmark this against transactions in Times Square itself, we are still at a discount of about 4%. As you can see, some of the larger leases, have been transacted, or some of the larger areas have been transacted at a relatively lower price. Again, these are COVID transactions. Pre-COVID, the prices were relatively higher, and we are confident of the fact that because of getting in at a lucrative and attractive capital value, we will be able to realize a lot of the unrealized appreciation and take benefit, of the spread in the capital value during our investment tenure. Comparing the lease comparable of approximately 10%, Tower rental is at 106 rupees. Now, when you look at this from a tenant's perspective, this limits the relocation options for a tenant, at least with respect to, trying to achieve lower rentals. Like, for instance, if SmartWorks tries to achieve a lower rental and remain in this micro market, they will not be able to go out and find a better rental, as we already had a significant discount to the market. So this significantly increases the stickiness of the premises and also gives us tenant stability. Great. So let's discuss the last section of this entire webinar, which is the financials. This, of course, is very important. This is regarding the return profile, for our investors in this opportunity. Now, going over the purchase price distribution. So in this asset, our price per square foot on the base price per square foot, in fact, is 14,700 rupees. Something which was, unique to this opportunity was the one-time premises improvement cost. So because of the kind of operations our subtenant Ifta's RBI subsidiary is running, the entire floor plate, has been upgraded for higher security, for, capital improvement. And these are essentially the costs that had to be incurred by the developer, and we're incurring them at cost. The entire opportunity stacks up to 31.1 crores. And we do think that given the favorable capital value, again, that was inclusive of the one-time premises improvement and the price per square foot, that this all-in price is something which is very attractive, something which, we anticipate will perform well during our investment tenure. Now, the return profile is, of course, divided into two aspects. One is the appreciation and second is the rental yields. So we'll start by discussing the gross yield growth. So year one, of course, is 9.2%, which is very competitive, as discussed previously, not only in the real estate market, but also in other wealth avenues. The average rental across the entire lease tenure is 10.5%, something which is going into double digits, seldom seen in the commercial real estate space. Another thing which really excited us is that on no given year is the, yield below 9% gross. So very strong proposition for our investors in this opportunity. And we're very excited, to be able to deliver such sort of returns to our investor base. Now, the second part of the return profile, of course, is the exit projection. The way we're going to discuss this slide is actually in two aspects. So first, I'll discuss what our assumptions are with respect to the, the exit projection. In the second part, we'll evaluate whether these assumptions are feasible to achieve. So our first assumption is actually that we're going to exit this property, or the optimal time to exit this property on behalf of all fractional investors is 5 years from now. The reason for this is that we anticipate that the optimal time to mark the rental to market and get or realize a lot of the appreciation will be after the second rental escalation. The second rental escalation kicks in 5 years from now, the first escalation being 2 years from now. The capital appreciation that we are projecting is 6.5%. Again, this is below the historic market rental growth rate. This is also in terms of CAGR appreciation. This is on the conservative end. So we did take all our assumptions on the conservative end, and we, are optimistic that we can achieve this and more for our investors in this opportunity. Now, to be able to evaluate the feasibility of these assumptions and the feasibility of achieving these performance metrics, what we have to do is step into the shoes of the new buyer who we will be exiting to 5 years down the line. So when a new buyer comes in 5 years down the line, what will his yield be? So at the capital appreciation of 6.5% annually, at the price we exit, the new buyer will be able to achieve a yield of 7.1%. Now, this is also called the exit cap rate for us being the seller, or the entry yield for the new buyer. So this 7.1% is in line with today's cap rate expectations. A lot of properties in mature micro markets such as Mumbai transacted, in fact, 7% and sometimes below. Now, we expect further cap rate compression going down the line, especially in a tenure such as 5 years, given the sort of institutional funding that is coming in, the low interest rates. We anticipate further cap rate compression. However, once again, we decided to take a conservative outlook and, keep our exit cap rate in line with today's expectation as opposed to, subjective projections. So the first part of the proposition for the new buyer is, of course, the entry yield being 7.1%. The second part is what lease terms are we offering him. So, when we are looking to exit the asset 5 years down the line, we will be in the second term with SmartWorks. What the new buyer will be offered is a 3-year lock-in remaining and an additional 5-year tenure. So, having a 3-year remaining lock-in with an additional 5-year tenure remaining with a 7.1% entry yield, this is a very strong proposition for any buyer, especially when we look at a more we look at a more developed market scenario in 2026, a more favorable market scenario in 2026. So these are all conservative metrics. And we think this is something which we can, very conservatively achieve. Now, in terms of the performance metrics that we are able to deliver to our investors in this opportunity with respect to these assumptions, in terms of IRR, we are projecting a 13.6% net. What that implies is that this is post-fee and post-expenses. In terms of MOIC, which is the multiple of invested capital, we are projecting a 1.7x. So again, these are something which are over a 5-year period and not the entire 13-year period. So these performance metrics are in relation to the exit timeline that is projected on this slide. If you do want to vary, any of these assumptions, if you want to get an understanding of the exact breakdown, exact calculations, we will be sharing a detailed financial model with everybody after this webinar. You can go through that. It is highly detailed. You can modify the assumptions, exit year, appreciation, and see the resultant impact on the IRR, MOIC, and other performance metrics. If you do have any queries regarding the detailed financial model, you can reach out to our investments team. They'll be more than happy to help you and take you through the same. Great. So now, before going through the final slide, which is the investment terms, I will cover 2 or 3 different points that we learned from our last opportunity. So we were in our last opportunity. We were very excited to see the strong demand. In fact, we had a wait list which was the same amount as the opportunity size. So given the strong demand, we were not able to cater to a lot of the investors. We were not able to give them allocation in that opportunity. This time, what we are doing is we are running an early access for all the investors that were not able to participate in the last opportunity, for all the investors that have been registered with us, who have joined the Myree Investor Network. So the early access is actually only till Thursday. Post Thursday, we will be opening the opportunity up to the entire market. So if you are looking to invest in this opportunity, we would highly encourage to get in touch with your dedicated investment Myree manager prior Thursday. We do want to ensure that people who missed out last time can be given preference and allocation. Great. So before we get into the investment terms, I just wanted to briefly go over the early access concept that we're running this time. So last time, what happened is that we got a wait list for our opportunity from investors that outpaced the opportunity size itself, due to which we were not able to give placement to many interested investors. And just to accommodate for that situation, and just to ensure that people who didn't get placement last time get placement this time, we're running the early access period. So the early access period only runs up to this Thursday, subsequent to which we will be opening the opportunity to the entire market at large. We are onboarding people on a first come, first serve basis. So if you do want to confirm your interest in the opportunity, if you want to confirm your placement in this opportunity, please do get in touch with your dedicated investment manager at the very earliest. The Myree investment team will take you through the process of onboarding and discuss any further details to confirm your placement as well as investment in this opportunity. Now, in terms of the investment terms, we have a 1% annualized management fee. This is charged on the initial investment amount. We don't charge the management fee, on unrealized gains. Furthermore, if there's any duration under which the rental is not in place, then the management fee is also entirely waived. We have a second aspect to the fee, which is the performance fee. The performance fee is charged at 20% over a hurdle rate of 12% IRR. So what that means is at the time of exit, and performance fee is only charged at the time of exit. So at the time of exit, if an investor earns a 12% IRR, then we charge no fee. If the investor earns above a 12% IRR, then we charge a 20% performance fee on the surplus amount only. Thirdly, we have a pre-book offer. The pre-book offer is an aggregate or cumulative amount of 2.6% spread across 5 years. This is something we are very excited about. This is one of the highest pre-book offers given in the space. The reason we are giving this one-time pre-book offer is that we have an aggressive funding timeline, due to which we were able to acquire lucrative investment terms, a lucrative opportunity for all our investors. However, due to the time constraint, we are incentivizing the investment by giving this pre-book 2.6% offer. The pre-book offer is only valid on investments that are confirmed prior to the 21st of October. So if you are interested, please get in touch with your investment manager and they will take you through the process. Shortly after the webinar, we are going to be sharing the detailed financial model. In the financial model, you can see the entire breakdown of all fee, of all cash flow, the pre-book offer, and any other details. Subsequent to which, if you do have any questions, our investments team can address the same for you. Thank you everyone for joining us and continuing to support us through our journey. We are very excited to continue to bring A+ grade institutional opportunities for fractional ownership on our platform. Great. So we will forward all the documents. Please reach out if you have any queries. Thank you for your time. Looking forward to have you participate in this opportunity and looking forward to have you join the Myri platform.